I'm in the polytunnel. It is 31.6 degrees in here and it's 19.9 degrees outside. It's the 13th of September and we're just approaching 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, things are really getting away from me. So as ever, work has been busy and I love my job, but it really has been a bit nuts. And I think sometimes I get a bit bored of hearing myself say that on these videos. Work's been crazy, home life's been crazy, but you know, it really, really has. And I just wanted to show you a kind of warts and all, because I think we've all been here and it's very easy to get disheartened and just think, what's the point, I'm going to give up. So we're going to have a warts and all little look around the plot. And I've got loads of really positive things going on, but my goodness me, I have let a few things go. So one of the really positive things is my tomatoes. So every day I'm just picking a few more of these amazing different varieties and popping them on here. So I'm popping them on about, the camera's quite picking this up, this kind of stage, and then ripening them up to this stage, and they're just coming thick and fast. And these little midnight snacks, oh my goodness, a lot of them aren't really making it from the plant to anywhere else because they're going from the plant straight into my mouth, and they're just lush. So tomatoes are doing absolutely brilliantly. I have not actually processed my onions yet. So these gorgeous shallots and my fabulous onions are still sitting on the staging, but you know what, at the moment that's okay. We're just coming out and grabbing them and chopping them and, you know, coming and grabbing a couple as we need them and eating them. But we are coming into the time of year where there'll be a lot more moisture and condensation in here, and they're not going to store in here all through the winter, so I will need to get those processed. And here are those mustard seeds that, I haven't processed, but they're not doing any harm in here. They're just sitting here drying, and I will be harvesting some of those gorgeous mustard seeds from these pods. I'm going to put some probably in, I just pinged a couple off there. They're probably going to grow somewhere. I'm going to stop touching them because I just keep pinging them. So some I will put in olive oil and make a mustard infused olive oil in a small jar or bottle, whatever I can find floating around, and some will just pop, you know, dry as they are, so we can use them in a pestle and mortar or just whole and use them in cooking. These peppers, they're a bell pepper, haven't grown these before. They're a sweet pepper and they're a mini bell mixed, and you know what, I thought they weren't going to come, and just in the last few weeks, I'll get you in a bit closer, but they're really coming. And I'm going to get a really good harvest. And at the moment we've got multicoloured, we've got red, green, orange. Yeah, let me get you in a bit closer and I'll show them to you. But while I'm down here, behind me I've also got these lovely leeks. And I was contemplating when I first started them in here that I may put them outside, but they kind of just stayed here. They've done really, really well, and I still have some of my potatoes in the tubs. So we are coming into the autumn months now. It has got a bit warmer again today, but we are getting some cooler nights, and you know, it's, as I said in my previous videos, it's starting to feel really autumnal now. We're getting into September and into autumn. So I'm going to get a couple of these leeks out, not today, and a few more potatoes. I'm going to make a lovely leek and potato soup with some leeks, some potatoes, and some of the onions and shallots. So let's get a bit closer to these peppers for you because they're absolutely beautiful. So I don't know, let's try and get in closer. Look at those. So we've got green, we've got red. This one's just starting to turn. Got a beautiful orange one here. More. There's a red one there. There's a few smaller ones, but they're really coming. And I'm absolutely thrilled. And while we're down here, if I can just move around, look at these midnight snacks hanging down. Oh gosh, the foliage. Let me move it all. Look at those. they're just wonderful, and we've got masses and masses still to come. My beans really have not been great this year, so much so that I've actually been given by one of my lovely work colleagues, one of the nurses. She's doing really well with beans this year, so she's given me a big bag of beans because they're just not doing great. So we've got those in the kitchen. We've used a few, and actually she's not long taken on an allotment, so for first year of growing on a plot or an allotment for her, so I'm going to take her a load of tomatoes because you know, that's one of the joys, isn't it, of we all have different successes, so we can share. If I've got an abundance of something, I can share them, and somebody else can share what they've got with me. But we have got some of these bellotto beans here. Let me just pull a couple. I mean, there's quite a few coming. I do love the bellottos. So there's a few of the bellotto or bellotti on this plant. I'm going to be honest with you. I've got a few Greek gigantes, but not many. I'll just pull this one. Hang on, I'm right out of camera shot. I can feel there's one in there. So there's a few on that plant, and I'm going to dry them and save them for next year and hope for a better season, because these Greek gigantes, oh my goodness, they are just delicious. So I'm disappointed not to get a particularly good harvest. Sorry, I'm itching my knee. I think something's bitten me, an ant or something, from kneeling down on the floor. But yeah, at least I can save some seeds and hope for a better season with those next year. But what have we got that's doing well? Well, over here are my parsnips, and my head's going to be in the way now, but I've been, just hold on. So the parsnips are behind me here, and what I've been doing is just feeling the oh, now I've got an itchy nose, itchy knee, itchy nose. What I've been doing is just feeling the shoulders of those parsnips, and they're actually feeling really good. And I did have a little mini harvest a few weeks ago because we were going to visit some family. You'll have seen the footage if you watched previous videos when we went to Birmingham, and I wanted to take some goodies, so I took some carrots, some eggs, I can't even remember now, but I took a whole selection of homegrown goodies, and the parsnips I took up were really quite nice. They were young, so yeah, judging and gauging from the ones that we've already pulled, I think the ones in there are going to be great. And then across in the corner, let's have a look over there at the peppermint chard. It's beautiful and really, really tasty. So just look at the colours. Isn't that delightful? And I've always loved chard, and I used to grow the bright lights, and then just the traditional, you know, the Lucullus chard, which is the big dark green leaves with the beautiful white veining and stems. But this peppermint chard is just delightful. And you may recall, I thought I'd nearly lost it because I had so much snail damage. I couldn't think of the word for snail in here, and there's still a little bit, but you know what, it's recovered really well, and we're getting some great pickings from that. In fact, I'm just gonna snap one off. I mean, look at that. Isn't that just, I mean, it almost looks like rhubarb, doesn't it? Gorgeous. So it just goes to show, you know, don't give up on things. It's worth hanging on. If you're not planning on putting something else into that place, I cut back a lot of the salads that were around here, chopped back all the leaf damage, and it's come great. So sometimes it's worth hanging on. Talking of which, let's go out and have a look outside. I'll just show you the tomatoes here in this corner. Although I cut a huge amount of foliage back, it has got a bit crazy again. So we've got the tomatoes that are behind you by the peppers that we've just been looking at, and then we've got a load in this bed, which is to my right, to your left. And it's looking like a bit of a tangly jungle at the moment. Some of the vines have actually dropped a little bit, you know, they just got too heavy, but they're still cropping, and they're doing really, really well. So you can see it's a complete, absolute jungle. But let's get in closer. There's still lots of tomatoes. So here's one that's starting to ripen. But let's get closer and I'll show you. So you can see if I can move some foliage. We've got loads of round ones. I can't remember the varieties of all of these now. Some of them were given to me. I think these are the Roma. And again, there's absolutely masses on that vine. There's some tiddly ones lurking down here. Let's try carefully, whoop, without making you seasick. Again, look at these. So I could do with trimming back the foliage, because as I say, you can see it's just a complete jungle in that corner, but they're doing okay. And here in this corner again, you can see it's really, really jungly, but in amongst that we've got lots of tomatoes still on the vine. And while I'm over here again, so back to the corner where we've got the leeks and the peppers, let's pull you off here. I'm still getting a few cucumbers. This one's a really odd shape because it managed to start growing between the canes and then I moved it out. But it's a cucumber, it'll still taste nice. So let's get outside. So I thought I'd start with some positives. Look at this cosmos, it's absolutely spectacular. And the rudbeckia here and the sweet peas. I've still got quite a lot going in this flower bed. Some of the sweet peas have gone over, but some of them are having like a second flush. But I've got a lot of weeds, and that's entirely my own doing. So with one thing or another, my usual kind of philosophy of little and often, so popping out and doing a few minutes here and there to keep on top of things, and I just haven't been doing that. So I'll be honest with you, for the last probably 2 weeks, I've barely been near the plot. So I'm coming out and I'm watering and I'm getting little pickings, but I haven't been doing my usual maintenance. And it just goes to show how quickly you can really start to feel out of control. But the positive here is, and I'm going to show you around, we're going into the months where it's going to be cooler, I'm going to have some more time on my hands. So over the autumn and winter months, my project is going to be getting back in control of the plot. Because since we've been here, I'll be honest with you, I've never had it so out of control. So the worst is the weeds on the paths. Weeds in the beds are never a huge issue, are they? But they're starting to encroach out into the pathways. So let's have a look around and I'll tell you what it is I'm going to do over the coming months to pull things back. And I'm actually quite looking forward to the challenge. So just starting here in front of the shed, I mean, look at these weeds and all of the pathways. As you can see, we've got some of the suppressant membrane which is starting to show through. So really what's happened is a lot of the bark has mulched down. It's making a lovely environment to grow these weeds. I haven't been pulling them up and they've just taken over a little bit. So this stretch behind me, I've got the potatoes that I showed you recently that I'd popped in. So these are going to be my second cropping potatoes. So these will be potatoes, all being well, that I will be able to enjoy for our festive meal. Some a little bit before and hopefully some a little bit afterwards. By that time they will be in the polytunnel and probably covered as well with a bit of fleece just to protect them from the colder temperatures. I've still got the 3 tubs which I've mentioned. I'm going to harvest some of those with the leeks to make some soup. But this stretch of pathway is actually the oldest section because the polytunnel went up first and then the rest of the plot evolved from that. So this is the oldest stretch of pathway, and essentially what's happened, I don't want to get too much up my fingernails, but it's mulching right down into a lovely organic matter now, lovely, almost, well, it is soil underneath. But because of that, of course, it's making a great growing medium for the weeds. So during the winter months, what I'm going to do is over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start weeding because they'll pull up so easily. There's some here, they just literally pull up. So they can go on the compost heap. And then I'm going to start raking this back and putting it as mulch onto my beds for this winter before I add some compost probably in the spring, and then putting some fresh bark down. And I'm really looking forward to that as a project to see me through the winter months, you know, on those gorgeous crisp autumn and then into winter days, you know, they're just beautiful days, aren't they? When you've got blue skies, it's cold, you've got your woolly hat on, I can pop the radio on, cup of tea, and you know, really enjoy doing it in stages. So, you know, this little bit of pathway here up the polytunnel, I can do that maybe in a day, and then another stretch, and before we know it, everything's going to be looking great. Another positive that I've got is these pumpkins that I thought weren't coming are finally starting to climb, and we've got some flowers and we've got some little fruits, and they're starting to climb up this frame that I made for them. So I'm hoping that actually through the autumn months I am going to have a lovely display of these Jackby little pumpkins. And these nasturtiums, I've given them a little bit of a helping hand, but they're also starting to really take off. So if you're in a similar situation to me where things have just got a little bit away from you, don't be disheartened, because the growing will start to ease off now, and there's lots of projects we can be doing through the autumn and winter months. And as I say, I'm actually feeling really positive that I've got these lovely projects to get my teeth into, and such mindful activities as, you know, just pulling out those weeds, scraping back that mulch, using it to mulch my beds, and then in the springtime I'll top those up with a lovely layer of compost as well. So I'm just thinking about popping over. Chris is working late tonight, so I'm just going to do the rounds with the beasties. So I just need to go and check. Oh, motorbike. I just need to go and check on everybody, make sure they've all got water, they're all looking well, give them all a cuddle, spend a bit of time with Kaylee. She'll be ready for her tea, and I'll make a little bit of tea as well for myself. Chris will be coming home sometime after 9, so I've got an evening to myself, and I quite enjoy that. It's nice to have that alone time sometimes, isn't it? You know, work's busy, and as much as I love spending time with Chris and we like doing things together, I think it's really important that we get that alone time as well. Just a little bit of time out to not have to concentrate or you know, have conversations, just to kind of still your mind a little bit. Now the eagle eyes, as you may have noticed, got a bit of a sticking plaster here. I wasn't sure whether I was going to talk about this, but I've decided that I will, because I'm not sure what's going to be happening, and I thought I'd rather give you a little heads up. So I'm preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. I suppose that's a really good expression to use here. I'm having a little bit of a health scare, and I don't want to freak any of you out, and if this is going to be potentially triggering, maybe switch off now. I am having a health scare, and it does involve a lump and quite a lot of tests. So if that's going to be triggering for you, I am sorry. So please switch off now or fast forward when we're talking about lovely positive things like growing and leek and potato soup. But I just felt I ought to let you know what's going on. So it'll be about 8 weeks ago now. I had a tendency, and I didn't even know that I do it, that when I'm talking, I tend to put my hand to my neck, which isn't a great idea when I'm filming, because I probably make a noise over my mic. But when I'm chatting with people, I have this tendency to touch my neck, which is probably a good thing, because I noticed I had a little lump, smaller than a pea, just here in my neck. Thought nothing of it, but just kept thinking, what is that? And over a period of about 5 to 6 weeks, it grew quite rapidly to the point that it is actually visible now. People can see it. So I didn't want to bury my head. I thought I'd better tackle this. So I bit the bullet, and I made an appointment with my GP. I saw a lovely chap. Hadn't seen him before. He's quite new, and he'd come from a hospital environment. He was really, really lovely. Took me very seriously, ordered some blood tests. Had the results. I had the bloods taken that day. Had the results back within 2 days. Not really sure what's going on, but wanted to push forward quite quickly. So I've had a series of appointments, some of which have actually been going straight off the back of night shifts, because they've been pushing them quite quickly, and I didn't want to mess up work. And I'm also trying really hard to just carry on as normal. So I've had the blood tests. I had a lovely appointment with a specialist. I have to say I've had a really, really positive experience. All the staff that I've dealt with have been really kind and caring and understanding. they've rushed me along, and over the last 2 weeks, as I say, I've had my bloods, I've had an appointment with a specialist, I had an endoscope which which went up my nose and then down my throat, and the good news, there was nothing in my throat, they couldn't see it, so the lump was kind of externalized, there's nothing inside my throat, which is good. I've had an ultrasound scan, and then this morning I've had a biopsy of my lymph node. Again, I went straight off the back of a night shift. Not the nicest experience in the world, but again, the staff were absolutely lovely. I had a really lovely nurse that was holding my hand, and another nurse talking to me, and then the chap who was using ultrasound. So it was a guided needle biopsy, and he took two samples. So I've got to wait for about 10 days to get those results, and then we'll take it from there. But I thought I would mention it, so I'm hoping it's going to turn out to be nothing at all, but I'm preparing for the fact that it could be something that might need a little bit of treatment further down the line. So I just thought I'd keep you in the loop. So I've made a start. It is just coming up for 9:15 in the morning, and I've probably done 20 minutes here, and I've cleared the weeds pretty much from this stretch between the polytunnel and the beds.